I write under the pen name Annalise Carrington, and this is Anne's Little Corner, where we talk about writing and everything that entails, and my journey from being a writer to being a published author. We're now way into April, and that means doing a Q2 reset for the quarter for our goals this year. I want to share with you my goals for this quarter and how I plan to achieve them. So if you're interested to hear about that, go grab yourself a drink. My coffee is with me, and then come hang out with me. So let's start with talking about how I set my goals in the first place. I follow the HB90 system developed by Sarah Cannon of the Heart Breathings channel, which I will link down below for you guys so you can check that out for yourselves. But anyways, let's talk about the HB90 system real quick. So the HB90 system is a goal-setting system in which for each quarter, you only set about 2, at the most 3 goals for that certain quarter. And then under that umbrella of each goal, you have multiple projects that should be able to move you closer to your goal and to achieving that. So instead of having like 10, 20, 30 goals for the quarter, you only have 3 big goals that you work towards, and then multiple projects under that then you cut into chunks of tasks that you do every day or weekly, depending on the time frame of each task or project that you're trying to achieve. And then finishing those tasks helps you finish the projects, which then helps you move closer to the goal that you set for yourself. Also, in the HB90 system, aside from just setting up 3 goals for yourself, Sarah also paired that up into time blocking, where you look into your available time for the quarter, for the month, for the week, for your day, to set realistic goals for yourselves. Because usually when we set goals for ourselves, we don't take into account the amount of responsibilities that we already have on any given day, and then we pile more into it because there are certain goals that we want to achieve, right? But not setting up realistic goals is usually how we end up failing in them. And then by the end of the quarter or by the end of the year, when we review our goals that we had set up for ourselves and we realize that we're not gonna be able to achieve it, we feel like a failure, and then we get down on ourselves and we either abandon that goal, which then end up with us abandoning that certain dream, which is just sad. Yeah, so I think I can speak for a lot of people when I say that we're tired of feeling that way, right? It's not just me feeling like I don't want to do anything anymore with my life just because I keep failing at it, right? Anyway, so in the HB90 system, we check our realistic schedules, daily schedules, monthly schedules, weekly schedules. Like, my 24 hours looks very, very different than your 24 hours, which could also look totally different than someone else's 24 hours. You could be a working single mother or father who has a 9-to-5 job, and then when you come home has to take care of your own kids, pick them up from the daycare, prepare their dinner, get them ready for bed, doing homeworks and things like that on top of that. And then your goal might be to finish a rough draft of your fantasy book within the quarter. And yeah, that's tough. I don't know where you're gonna get the energy from. Excuse me. I don't know where you're gonna get the energy from, on top of I don't know where you're gonna get the time from, because you still need to sleep, you still need to rest, you still need to relax, you still need to take care of yourself so you don't burn out. Anyways, so you see, we have different things that goes on in our life every day and every week, different responsibilities. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and my kids are grown enough that I didn't have to worry too much about them. And that means I have way more time in my hands every day than, like I said, someone with a full-time job. I have free time where my only responsibilities are my household and taking care of my family. And most of the time, I'm the only one left at home with my furry dog who's somewhere sleeping. Now, usually when we set goals, we have a certain time frame where we work towards it so we know where we at in our progress at each point. Maybe this quarter, one of your goals was to finish the first draft of your novel, right? And when you have that 9 to 5 schedule as a single parent that we just talked about earlier, maybe that time frame isn't realistic. And if you set your goal from the onset, knowing the amount of your dedicated time that you can put into your writing, then when you get to the end of the quarter, you can say, yeah, it makes sense that you only managed to write this much of the book, and then you can work from there for the next quarter. Now, you understandably can see that, yeah, it didn't make sense to think that I would be able to finish a rough draft in just one quarter. So maybe for the next quarter, now that you realize how much you can do with your actual realistic time, you can set up your goal in a way that's gonna work out for you for the better and not set yourself up for failure. Another thing that you can also adopt from the HB90 system is doing a Kanban board. Usually, there's a board. It is a Kanban board and it's separated in 3 columns and another 3 rows. Did I get that right? Columns and rows? Or rows and columns? Whichever. You know what it is. You can decide for yourself. I said what I said. Anyway, so in each column, row, either way, in each one, you put in your certain task for the projects that you set up for each goal. So 3 goals, 3 columns / rows. And then there's your entire backlog of the tasks that you needed to do. And then the next row is gonna be your doing. So there's to do, there's doing, and then there's done at the bottom row for each project. Well, no, for each goal rather. And each project is for, and each task is for each project, for each goals. Anyway, if you want to do it, you can do it. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to. During my Q1 planning, I didn't do my Kanban board and it still worked out fine. I still know the list of tasks I had because I had written them in my planner, and then every week I just check them out and see which task do I do each week or which task I need to get done by a certain week. If you don't like seeing the amount of tasks that you think you needed to do to reach your goal, if you end up feeling like that's gonna overwhelm you, don't do it. You don't have to do it. It's just for me, I like seeing the things that I, start of the quarter, I needed to do to push me through achieving my goals at the end of the quarter. It takes away the decision making that I have to do every week. Like, I already thought of these things during the start of the quarter. I put them up there, and then when I redo my weekly planner, then all I had to do was look at them, and that takes the decision time that I had to put into figuring out what needs to be done that week, because it's already up there. I just have to grab the post-it notes and then check them out, transfer them to doing for the week, and then write it down on my planner to remind myself that these are the tasks that I need done. And then at the end of the week, if I actually manage to get to doing those tasks, then I transfer them to the done section of the Kanban board. So finally, let's talk about my Q2 goals. So I have here my iPad where I have my digital planner. I used to download the HB90 planners on Etsy, which I will also link down for you below so you can check that out. I used to use the paper planner, but I find that using the digital ones with all the stickers that I can buy and download and having everything in just in one device instead of, you know, bringing the physical ones out every time I had to do my planning, works way better for me. So the HB90 planner is also available at Sarah's Heart Breathing's Etsy shop. I'll link them down below. She also has, like I said, paper planners for it. It's a PDF file that you can download and then print out on your own. That's what I used to do, but I found that the digital one is better for me. Anyways, let's talk about my Q2 goals. Before that, let me show you what my time blocking system looked like. It basically looked like that. You see? It basically looked like that. So, the green highlights are for my goal number 3. The pink are for my goal number 2. And the blue are for goal number 1. And the yellow, those are all times that are already accounted for in my everyday life, with chores, with the kids, with my husband, my dog. Those are all accounted for times. So you can see that here, looking at my schedule, if I can get my hair out of the way, looking at my schedule, even being a stay-at-home mom who has a bunch of free time, these blue ones being dedicated to my first goal, which is my writing goal / publishing goal. There's only how many hours in a day that I can work on it because of my other 2 goals. And my third goal up there, which doesn't look like much, but that's mostly for my self-care and work-life balance. And the pink ones, the second goal, has everything to do with my author brand and my social media presence. So that included YouTube, which obviously includes filming and editing, research, things like that. And then there's my Instagram and my Threads account, TikTok account that I barely touch anymore. Haven't uploaded anything in a long while. Yeah, I wanted to work on it. Anyway, so let's talk about my goals for the quarter. Okay, like I mentioned earlier, my first goal, that's my writing and publishing goal. So the wording I used was that to get my publishing ducks in a row by finishing 5, 8, or 10 of my pre-publication for book and marketing tasks, and 2, 3, or 5 of my pre-publication business tasks by the end of the quarter. Now let me talk about the 5, 8, 10, and 2, 3, 5 of each level of for the writing and the publishing. So Sarah also mentioned to try and do a good, better, best outcome for the goal. Like, you know, if your goal was to finish your rough draft for the quarter, you can say to finish writing the first act, the second act, or the third act of the rough draft of my fantasy novel. That could be your goal. It's good for you to finish the entire first act of your novel. It's better if you manage to write until the end of the second act by the third quarter, and it's the best outcome for you to write the entire novel by the end of the quarter. I'm also going to mention my wording here for the pre-publication for book and marketing tasks and the pre-publication business tasks. Logistically, I can separate those two into 2 separate goals. And since the pre-publication business tasks aren't really there's not much that I needed to do by the end of this quarter yet, I decided to put them together just on the first goal instead. So the wording, like I said, the pre-publication for book and marketing tasks and pre-publication business tasks came from the Publish and Thrive course that Sarah Cannon also teaches for indie authors. And these are tasks that as indie authors we needed to, well, not needed, but we can do on a certain time frame. Some obviously needed to get done before publication, like, you know, finishing your book, and some of the business tasks, like maybe you feel like you needed to talk to an accountant first before you actually publish your debut. So you put that on a certain time frame, get it done. I want to finish at least 5 tasks, 8 tasks, 10 tasks for the pre-publication for book and marketing, and 2, 3, or 5 tasks for the pre-publication business tasks. That doesn't sound like a lot. It's more like, well, my biggest project was to finish the current draft of my book. For me to finish that project requires a bunch of tasks. But the way I worded this goal is that finishing the entire draft is only one task of the good option of, finishing at least 5 for the quarter. I don't even know if I'm actually going to achieve this by the end of the quarter, but you know what? I'm good for it. I'm gonna try to work hard to achieve it, but if it's not gonna work out, it's not gonna work out. I still would have done a lot during the quarter. I'll still take it as a win. So let's move on to the second goal. My second goal is to build my author platform by growing the number of my social media following by the end of the quarter. I want to focus on these 3 for now, for this quarter, Instagram, Threads, and YouTube. And then for each of those social media platforms, I have a good, better, best that I put it in there now. So hopefully, I'd be able to at least achieve the good outcomes for this, because I'm not really big in social media. Well, I'm big in consuming social media posts, but scrolling through each platform, yes. When I'm sitting down just trying to relax, I'm big on scrolling through there. But when it comes time to produce my own content, somehow it's not as easy. It's not as easy as just sitting down there and, talking. Because, like I said, it's also my author platform, which requires a bit more thought than just, sitting down and posting a selfie every day. I mean, not that it's bad, not that there's something wrong with posting a selfie every day. Maybe if that's all I can do, maybe that's even better than, posting nothing, which what I have been doing for the past forever. If posting selfies every day is how it's gonna work out for you, then good job, because I'm not doing anything and it's worse. I think it's worse. But then again, this mindset also segues into my third goal about building a healthy foundation for a work-life balance by implementing 20%, 35%, or 50% of the healthy habits from each project chosen during the quarter. Now, it sounded a little bit vague, but that's as much as I can get out of that goal 3, because it's more an accumulation of different sets of projects, and it has more to do with taking creative breaks, taking care of my health, doing self-care, which could also be under creative breaks and the health, including me time and family time, and my recurring tasks, which are my chores. All of those falls under my third goal. Well, except for the recurring tasks, the chores. But I still have some household tasks that I wanted done that aren't recurring. They're not my everyday chores. Like, actually fixing up one of our bedrooms, organizing it the way that I wanted, and actually, finish unpacking some boxes that are still, even though our household goods arrived September last year. So there are still some of those. So yeah, those falls under my third goal. So like I said, my second goal segues into my third goal. And what I meant about that is my self-care. Like, self-care for me includes, going to the nail salon every month, following my morning and nighttime skincare routine, and actually following through that routine every day. Because sometimes, when you're just too tired, the best you can do is just brush your teeth, wash your face, and then head to bed. Or in the morning, when I didn't wake up when I'm supposed to and I had to get my kids up and ready for school, all I can do is just splash water on my face and brush my teeth, and then instead of going back and doing my skincare, I'm just gonna come down here and sit at my desk and start working. Little things like that. And that also includes maybe every now and then doing my makeup. Helps me feel better about myself, about the foods that I eat, because I'm telling you, I definitely need to eat more vegetables, because my diet had been crap. It had been crap for quite some time, and I think part of self self-care is feeling good about yourself on the outside and feeling good about yourself in the inside, like your diet, water intake, things like that. That's all part of my third goal. And one of the things that I can't just, post a selfie every day as part of my posting strategy is that more often than not, I feel self-conscious about how I look. And I understand that that's a tough conversation to have at times, and maybe you're sitting there asking, what does this crap got to do with, goal setting and my goals for the quarter? But this is part of my goals, so yeah, that's why I talked about it, that's why I mentioned it. But moving on, for recap, the first goal is my writing and publishing goals, the things I can do now this quarter in preparation for publishing hopefully next year. And second goal has everything to do with building my author platform and social media presence under my pen name. And the third goal has everything to do with my work-life balance and self-care. Now, under each of those goals, I have multiple projects that maybe I can share with you. So like I said, the biggest project on my first goal was finishing my current draft. But then again, this is the first time that I'm going through this process, finishing an entire book from brainstorming, rough draft, second draft, and everything that will come after that. And I don't know how to estimate my timeline yet. Maybe I need the entire quarter to actually finish my goal, because I can estimate my daily word count and I can make a writing schedule, but sometimes life happens. And right now, with the way I have my schedule and my plan, I'm hoping to actually finish the draft by the end of May. But I always have these what ifs at the back of my head that maybe something could go wrong. Maybe I get to the climax and then I realize, wait, there's something wrong with the story fundamentally, and then I have to go back again to redraft scenes and chapters before that. It's what happened during my second draft. That's why this is draft 2.5. I reworked the first draft, figured out my revision plan. 80% of the book are all new scenes that wasn't in the first draft. I started writing those new scenes, and by chapter 18, I realized there are enough editing notes that it would make more sense for me to rewrite back from chapter 1 all the way to chapter 18 and so on, because if I implemented the editing notes that I had during that time, it's a big fundamental changes from what's already in the second draft. And so I went back, after weeks of working on the second draft, I went back to rewrite for draft 2.5. But anyways, so that's where my brain is at. I don't know if something like that will happen again and I have to go back and rewrite, therefore not being able to finish the book by the end of May. So I'm gonna see if it happened, but if I actually needed the entire quarter to finish the book, then that's how it's going to be. My other projects that has something to do with writing hinges on the fact that I'll finish this draft on a certain day. So like second project is the edits before I actually handed my manuscript to my critic partners or alpha readers if I manage to find them. And then the third project is the process of getting alpha readers if I actually ended up getting them, because I need to make a form, which is a task. I need to make multiple posts calling out for alpha readers. I need to figure out what needs to go into the form in the first place. And probably before I do that, I need to actually figure out what my blurb is. I've been procrastinating writing the blurb. I kept telling myself that, I'll get to it after I finish this current draft. But actually today I emailed an editor, and one of the things that she needed from me is at least, a blurb. And if I didn't have that, at least what the story is about. So I managed to write a rough draft of the blurb today. So that's nice. So that's one of the tasks in my blurb writing project that's already done, and that's not even part of the things that was in my task list this week. So anyway, most of these projects hinges on me finishing the second draft, draft 2.5. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to finish them, but you know what, at least I have an idea of the next things I needed to do once it gets done. And if it gets done, it gets done, and I can work on the other projects for the rest of the quarter. And if it didn't, then it didn't. About the business part of that, I needed to start looking into possible mailing address because I cannot use my mailing address here. Aside from the fact that I don't want my actual literal address out there, I cannot have mails coming to our address here that has anything to do with my business. Since we live overseas and we're living in a military base, we're not allowed to use our USPS privileges to receive business mails. So since self-publishing is a business, anything that got to do with it, I cannot let go through my actual mail here. So I need to look for a virtual mailing address for that. So anyways, at least that's some of the projects for my first goal. And then everything that's got to do with my second goal is, you know, about brainstorming for content in each platform. I'm filming this April 10th. So it's been what? More than a week since April started. And I'm supposed to have already brainstormed some content for IG and Threads, but it's only YouTube that has that. I have the distinct feeling that my goals for Instagram and Threads, more specifically Instagram, is probably not gonna work out for me. Because, you see, one of the reasons that I started this channel is that aside from the fact that I wanted to be part of the AuthorTube community, I also thought that maybe making short form content isn't my jam. YouTube takes a lot more time and effort. I have to sit down and plan my topic. I need to do a little bit of research. I need to script. I need to figure out my camera, my angles, filming times, and then actually film and then spend days editing compared to, you know, short form content. You go into the platform, you do what you do while you're filming yourself, edit it a bit, maybe 10-15 minutes, and then you post it, or you put it in your drafts and then you post it whenever. Somehow, doing YouTube is working out better for me. I think it has something to do with the amount of content. I think for one subject like this, my 2025 second quarter goals, I can sit here and I can, you know, just yap about it, share what I think, share what I know, share what's going on with my life, with me and my goals, and sharing it with whoever wants to watch this. I can just sit here and do that and actually edit it later, even though it takes longer producing a YouTube video than it does short form content. It's the generating of idea. I think it's what's the problem with me. It's hard to brainstorm ideas to post and to set up filming schedule for multiple reels during the times when I'm feeling good about myself and I'm in the mood and I'm not looking like a dungeon goblin. I mean, you guys see me looking like that too from time to time when I'm, you know, filming vlogs, but at least every now and then I'll have this more put together version of myself. So I think that's a problem with that. And I don't think I'll be able to achieve it, but I will try. I will try. I'm not promising, but you know, it's not a promise to you. It's gonna be a promise to myself, because you know, it's part of my publishing strategy. But we'll see how it goes, because I don't know. I don't know. That's as much as I can say. But anyway, let me show you when I make my Kanban board. I didn't put anything for the third goal because my third goal is all gonna be in here. It's all gonna be like a checkbox sort of thing. Okay, so for the second goal, I also didn't put the task in using the minutia of all of them, like, you know, brainstorm reel one or film reel one, edit reel one. I didn't go into that. I just basically put brainstorm form content idea. That's all that I put for the tasks for those parts. I went more granular with my YouTube tasks because like I said, I'm actually more into YouTube than Instagram and the other platforms at the moment. You enjoyed that little b-roll there at the end. Tell me what you guys are excited for this quarter. Share some of your goals down there in the comments. So if you like this video, don't forget to give that like button a little tappy tap. And if you're enjoying my content so far, please also hit the subscribe button so you can get notified every time I upload a new video. Have a great rest of your day and bye! You cannot really do much while driving aside from things that doesn't require your hands and other parts of your concentration. Where was I going with that? Oh my god. I'm botching this explanation up.